Janine Allis, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to be talking to you. I've been a huge fan of your work for so long and, you know, from Survivor through to Boost through to Shark Tank, you've achieved so much throughout your career and I know our listeners are going to love hearing from you today.
No, I'm happy to be here.
So I want to just dive straight in, and I was thinking about you and your early days of Boost, and you are 32 years old and at the time you had 3 little kids. And I just want to know about what led you to start Boost.
Look, it was funny, you know, I didn't have a business bone in my body. I left school at 16, went to a tech school. So I sort of didn't know anyone who owned a business, didn't know anyone who went into university. So coming from an incredibly low base. So yes, entrepreneur growing up I wasn't, but an adventurer I was. So I sort of travelled around the world at 21 and then found myself on a boat, which David Bowie bought. So I hung out with him for a couple of years. But then really coming back to Australia, it was probably when that entrepreneurial spirit sort of came out where I went, I don't want to work for someone anymore. I had my 3rd child. And so I was on maternity leave and I just went, that's it. I want the flexibility. I want to see my kids. I want to, you know, I want something creative to pursue. I want all of those things. And so I thought we'll start a business. So we tried a couple of things that didn't work. And then I saw in the category in America that the juice and smoothie market was going really well. But I didn't like their concept. So I came back to Australia with no business experience and started Boost Juice with 3 kids, little kids.
How old were they?
4, 2 and 7 months.
7 months. So you've got a 7-month-old and you're kind of starting your business journey. Tell us about how you navigated, I guess, the highs and lows of starting a business and having a young family at the time. And you're a mum of 4 kids, so you've done this 4 times over. I can imagine there's been like so many amazing things, but also so many hard days. How do you go on those hard days?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, you know, some days you go, you know, when they're at you and they're, mum, you go, don't want to be a mum today. I'll be one tomorrow, but today I'm done, right? I'm done. Or even with work, sometimes with business, you go, you have a hard day and everything's piling on top of you, everything's going wrong, and you go, enough, right? We're all human, right? So these things happen. You know, we don't always go, we're positive and it's all dandy, you know, it's not, right? Parents used to hang out with me to feel good about their parenting, right? You know when you rock up at school and you get a car park right in front of the school and you go, oh my God, I've got a car park. There's no school on normally that day for me. So then the kids would go to school in the wrong uniform and I'd miss notices and, you know, I just had to surround myself with the mums that were really on it for them to give me any sort of chance of my kids doing anything. And also, no offence to boys, but I've had 3 boys and I've got 1 girl. I don't even think about anything with my daughter. She's on it. Boys, they would walk out the house with 1 shoe, right? So we're coming from a very low base, right? I said, when I had my daughter, I went, I don't know if she's particularly smart or my boys are just slow. I just wasn't sure which one. Actually, still to this day, don't know. So look, and I think but I truly believed, and I still believe, that a happy woman is a better mother. And for me, I wanted the pursuit of work and the creation, and you know, I needed that in my life. And I found that I was a better mother, wife then. Not always. Let's not kid ourselves. Not always. It doesn't always work that way. But look, it was a blur. Pretty much from 30 to 40 was a blur. It was starting a business. You know, Boost was very needy. It needed every ounce of me to get it going. The kids were little, so they needed me. So it was all about output. There wasn't much input. It was all just about give the kids, give the business, give my husband, give. And I'm not saying that as a victim because far from it. You know, I was in an incredible learning journey being a mother. And so it was just this big, massive whirlwind of being 30 to 40 going, you know, how am I going to get through this day? I actually look at photos of when I was 40 and I swear to God I look about 10 years older than I am now.
Were you just so, did you feel that feeling of exhaustion or were you getting the energy from Boost growing? So you're like, okay, I'm getting my energy topped up by the business even though I'm having to give?
Look, I get on with stuff. I don't ponder on, poor me or whatever. There's something to do, you get it done, right? So you're pretty much on adrenaline, right? So, and yes, it was fun, and some days it wasn't fun, and so, I would probably once a year go to a health retreat because I would be absolutely spent, and then I'd go, right, I need to refuel, put stuff back in the bucket, and then I would then empty the bucket again. So that was pretty much my routine, was go hard, smash myself against a wall, pick myself up, take myself to a health retreat for 5 days, come back, go again. So, but look, in fairness, people talk about life balance. The business wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for me doing that. I didn't have enough staff at the time. I didn't have enough knowledge at the time. So you just had to do.
It's really interesting. I've heard you talk before about work-life balance, and I love your perspective, because for me, when I hear the term work-life balance, it irritates me, because I'm like, I've never experienced balance. Like there is no balance. Like there's like work and life, and they're all jumbled together, and I'm like, I don't like that expression, because I think it sets us up for failure, because we have this expectation that we can manage them beautifully in this balanced way. Talk to me about your take on this idea of work-life balance and your beliefs around it.
Yeah, I think I'm probably similar to you, Shelley, in the sense that I don't think there's life and balance. I just think there's life, right? And in life, you have the mixture of, your work, your life, because also with most people's social life or social capacity is people they don't work. So that's life, right? You're going for lunch and catching up, meeting after work for drinks. That's life. I mean, a lot of people's friendships come from work. So, and also it's this connotation that work is bad, right? So work's bad, so you need this balance, right? You need this good. So it's black and white. I don't see that, because in actual fact also I know that people most people, a lot of people, not everyone, gets a great deal of satisfaction from their work. They get the satisfaction of achieving, they get a satisfaction of being promoted, they get a satisfaction of helping. So work for me is, I don't think I could ever retire, because I need the purpose and the thing of that mental stimulation. But yeah, so people don't necessarily need a break from work. The connotation is like you have this shovel and you have to dig holes, right? If that was your job, then maybe you need a bit of yin and yangs. But people do get a lot of stuff from work, including husbands and wives. But for me, you can manage. It's not balance; it's manage. So pretty much 30 to 40, it was no balance, right? It was just it was definitely a lot of boost, right? It was all about boost, and it was traveling overseas and launching overseas and all that sort of stuff. Pretty much from 40, though, the business was at that stage where it had enough great people, that they didn't need me to be in the weeds or in the minutiae of the business. So I had people that were better at me than a lot of areas. So I could then start to be more of a true leader, and not necessarily be on the oars rowing that boat. I was more on the rudder trying to get in the right direction. But that was when I sort of went, okay, I need to restructure it. My adrenals are gone. I am hitting walls all the time. I'm not looking after myself. And considering I was running a health drink business. So at 40, I restructured not restructured my life. I took up surfing. I took up tennis. I took up horse riding. I then have made sure Mondays and Fridays I had no meetings whatsoever, ever. And then most days I didn't start till 11 o'clock. Not necessarily, not start as in I didn't have meetings till 11 o'clock. Because what I found I was doing was I was just meeting people, but I didn't have any clear space to think, clear space to plan, clear space to just do some writing and just to be me. So Monday was set up, Friday was wind down, and then during the week, literally I had meetings between 11 and 3. That was it. And then we were done. And to this day, I still try to keep to that as much as I physically can.
It's really interesting hearing you describe your phases of business, because I think you're starting in your 30s when you've got little kids. It's like hectic in all aspects of your life, I imagine. And then the business grows, and as it grows, that next phase from 40 on, where you start to be able to have more autonomy. You're not give. You actually get the benefit of the business. Do you think, because I'm just really interested in your perspective on this, because you would have seen all the reels and TikToks about entrepreneurs' morning routines and how they like do all this stuff and they like spend 3 hours on their morning routine. But I often think, well, you can do that when you've got to a certain point in your career where you have built up a successful business. But in that grind phase where it's just hard, do you feel like, is that a rite of passage, that period of time where you just have to go, you know what, for the next couple of years, I'm just going to go hard as an entrepreneur in building my business? Or is that something that you feel like maybe is changing in this kind of entrepreneurial landscape?
Look, I think you still can. I mean, it depends on individual purpose. Like, so having 3 little kids wasn't conducive for me to get up and have my morning to myself, right? So, but if I had a business where it was just the business and, you know, and I had a wife or someone extra support, because my husband, who is divine and, you know, we're very much equals in our relationship, he also had a full-time job, right? So it wasn't like we had sort of all this space. So for us, it was, so to your question is that like right now, right? So I now get up at 5:30 every morning, right? I never did that when I was younger. Actually, was probably more of a night owl. You know, I eat dinner at 5:30, which my friends just laugh because they know if they come to my house, they're in at 5:30, they're out at 8:30. See ya, right? See you later. And they know no one's offended. They just, in actual fact, they love it because they're at home at 8:30 going, oh my God, that was the best night ever, right? I don't not drink, but I would probably drink once a month. Right, so I've completely changed my health aspect of my business. So instead of all outward, there's a lot coming back in now. I couldn't have worked because I was working till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, so I couldn't possibly get up at 5 o'clock. I didn't have a love for surfing back then because I was living in Melbourne in the suburbs, so I couldn't quite, fulfill that, need. So, life does change. I mean, they actually say every 6 years you're in clumps, 6 or 7 years you're in clumps. And, you're changing as a person, you're changing your lifestyle, you're changing sometimes your career. So, and I really feel that was the case with me with regard to, that 6 to 7 years, you go, okay, right, what are we doing now and how do we improve? And I think that's the whole thing, is that you really do need to constantly going, how do I, if every day I do something that's a bit better, then that's a good thing.
I love that idea that every 6 to 7 years you kind of have this reset. And I kind of think about that and the reinvention that you can go through in your career. Do you feel like you've had those moments of reinvention personally along your career journey?
Boost was a long time that I was there. I'm now chairman. I'm still an investor in the business, but I'm not in the weeds anymore. We've got a great CEO, a great executive team. They don't need me, a bit like my kids. They don't need me anymore. So that mentorship, which is, I think, the right role for where I am right now. But yeah, no, I do think that there's that sort of clump where I look at the different eras of what I was doing. Before I started Boost, it was all about, careers and, I probably stayed in the job 3 months each time. I was definitely not a stayer. So yeah, but Boost was sort of that passion and finding great passion in other things that are sort of coming forward.
It's interesting too, and I mean, the fact that you're on David Bowie's boat, I can imagine you have the most wild, epic stories from that time in your life where you're firstly, ending up on his boat in and of itself is just wild, but then all the stuff you would have seen, I can imagine would have been amazing, and meeting so many incredible people. I've got one more question about the mum stuff, and this is, we have had so many listeners, Janine, and actually at International Women's Day, we had a question come up from a listener who wants to become a mum but feels like they don't often hear from women in business who have these successful careers of how they've managed to, I guess, in inverted commas, have it all. And that kind of sentiment about having it all, and I don't know, I'd love to know your take on this idea and even digging into some of your perspective on mum guilt, because I've often felt mum guilt and then I go, this is not helpful, this is not serving me, but I don't know how to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think, look, you're right. Guilt doesn't to yourself, don't serve you, right? And, there is times where I look at my sons and went, God, I should have sent him to that school, or I should have been, you should have, could have, would have, right? At the end of the day, you're the sum of all the things you do, not one thing too. So, so I often, I was very lucky that my mum was a great support. So she came and really helped me with the kids with regard to not having that worry about they're not with someone who I don't know, they're with someone that loves them like I do. So I was very lucky in having a mum like that. Actually, in fact, my kids say, will you be to our kids like Gran was to us? I go, no. For clarity, no. If they're watching this podcast, no. Right? You'll work it out. But I think the thing is you've got to set yourself up to succeed, right? So with having my own business, I went, okay, how am I going to do all this? So first and foremost, I made sure the office was always within 5 kilometres of where I lived. So I could then get home quickly. I made sure the school was in the same area so I could get to all the events I needed to get to, be there before the school, be there after school. So I set myself up to succeed. I had great support from my mother. And so that's sort of the grounding. So you get that right. And then there's times when you go, God, I'm in front of my son, but I'm not present. I'm thinking about stores opening or problems or whatever, so I'm not present. So then I went, okay, what can I do to fix that? So I'd make sure that I would do things at night. Just before they went to bed, it was like I would do imagination work with them, or I would read Harry Potter, which was quite funny, actually. I really liked the Harry Potter series. And I remember sitting there with them reading a chapter, and they were shattered. I went, no, one more chapter. Come on, we'll read one more chapter. No, Mummy, we've had enough. No, one more chapter. So, so it is that sort of, trying to create systems. The other thing I did was, and most of my kids took me up on it, I had a special day once a year where they had to give me notice, and I would do a day just for them. Or I would travel interstate and I'd go, who wants to come with Mum? And so I'd take them with me to work. Their birthdays, even to this day, well, they're grown up now, but other than Talia, if it's their birthday, they can do what they want. They can go to school. They don't need to go to school. They can do whatever they want. I'll hang out with them, whatever. So I couldn't do the day-to-day was a grind, but I could pick out of the year special days, which hopefully they'll remember when they're older. Hopefully. And not give a big long list and say, these are all things you did wrong.
I love, it kind of reminds me of going back to that idea of, I think, work-life blend, when you're bringing your kids along interstate to the event that you're speaking at and they get to see Mum absolutely killing it in her career and they get included in that world, that I find that really special, and that's something that you can make these moments and be intentional as a parent and still feel like you're kicking really big goals in your business.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, you try things. Sometimes you get them wrong, sometimes you get them right, but just I think the key thing is be kind to yourself. There's all this, we get in our own way a lot of the time, and sometimes the kids go, Mommy, don't leave, and your heart's falling, and then as soon as you walk out the door, they're going, oh, what toy am I playing with, right? So, or you ring them interstate and you really miss them, and they're more interested in watching Scooby-Doo on TV than actually talking to you, and you're gutted that they don't really miss you. So, but I'm at the stage now where my youngest daughter is 15, which is the other thing I did at 40, I had another child. And so she's 15, and so she's at that age where friends are more important. The 3 boys are already out; they're grown. So, it's nice to be at the other end of it. And when you talk about success, it's not about money in the bank or having a business that's iconic or whatever. It's actually sitting around a table with my kids and my husband, and everyone's laughing and we're playing games, and I go, yeah. And now my kids are so different. I've got everything from a hippie to an entrepreneur to an environmentalist. I've got the whole gamut of children. But, oh, my God, I think that's the only time where I go, I haven't got it all right, far from it, But if right now we're at this moment where my kids are happy to be with each other, everyone really digs each other and they're happy to be here, I must have done something right.
I love that measure of success for you, Janine, because I think that's where each of us often define success by external standards or by that outward pressure of what our family thinks or what our, what culturally is the norm. But I think for you having dinner with my family, kids are laughing around a table, that's it. That's the success measure.
Yeah, it's good for you.
I love it.
It's good. It's gooey. It's, you might drive a nice car and live in a nice house, but a granite bench top doesn't make you happy.
I love that comparison because the granite bench top, costs a lot of money, but yeah, it's not going to fill your cup at the end of. I feel like you get to I often think about. I love Ryan Holiday's work and his stuff on stoicism, and that idea of he always talks about remember you will die. It's a Latin. I can't remember the actual Latin terminology of what it is, but it's the whole idea, he says, is at the end of your life, what do you want to measure as success? And the granite bench top is not going to fall into that category, no. But the sitting around having a meal with your family and having those crying of laughter moments, that will be there. That'll be the thing that you're like. Anyway, very morbid thought for a early morning, but no,
it's the same thing. What do you want on your tombstone? It's more about I think it's that thing of inevitability. Death and taxes is the two things that is guaranteed, right? So, and we're all going to be there one day, and so why not live a good life? Why not live a life that makes you happy and do what makes you want to do? So, with consideration of, if I've chosen to get married or partner up with my husband, I'm also going, well, I'm in a relationship where I need to be considerate. So I can't just go, I'm going, mind you, I do go, I'm going on a yoga trip, I'm going on a surf trip. I'm shocker. I'll go, by the way, next week, remember I told you 6 months ago that I was going, wait, it's tomorrow.
Surprise.
Okay. And he can do it too, but luckily he's a homebody. So it's like, oh, really? You don't want to come? Okay.
See ya. I love it. We're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, Janine, I'd love to dig into your idea of what makes a good business owner and entrepreneur, because I think I'm just really curious to hear more about what you see. You've worked with so many business all across Australia and internationally, and I feel like you've got a really good ability to spot what makes someone successful in this space. So you have been working with so many business owners, Boost, with Betty's Burgers, on Shark Tank. What do you think, Janine, makes someone a successful business owner? Are there trends?
It's a type of mentality, is I think. I can sum it up with this. There's two types of people out there. There's the verbs and the people that choose to soar, right? The verbs are victim, entitled, rescue, and blame. If you live your life in that space where it's not your fault, it's everyone else's fault, I can't find the answer, it's poor me. If you're in that poor me space, you'll go nowhere. You'll actually seriously have a life, you will actually attract that energy to you, and you'll forever be in that verb mentality. So, but successful business people and entrepreneurs have to live in the soul world. They have to live on solutions because there's problems every day. You have to take ownership. One of the most powerful things you can do in business and life is make it your fault. Because the second it's not your fault, there's nothing you can do, right? So if I'm living in verb and going, oh, gee, petrol prices have made that sales are down, right? Well, can't change petrol prices, so nothing I can do. Or you go, sales are down. Let me think, what are some of the techniques I can use to actually ensure that I can actually do growth? Or you're constantly thinking about how to. So solutions, ownership, it's my fault. Accountability, it's me, right? If I'm the leader of this business, it's me and I'm responsible for the outcome. So if you live in that soul mentality, that makes a successful entrepreneur and business person.
I love that. I love the difference between, I'm just writing that down, soar and verb, and they're just the stark contrast. If you look at those side by side and you go, okay, what does it look like to be someone who takes ownership, who finds solutions, who takes accountability and responsibility? Do you feel like those are skills you can develop, or are they things that just come naturally to people?
I can honestly tell you that I'm sure, actually I know, I've been the verb in the past. I've done the poor me, you know, I'm having a hard day, you know, the world's against me. But it's actually being aware of it. So you can actually change the way you think. You actually can. Some people are naturally positively skewed. I think I'm one of those. And some people are naturally negatively skewed, right? And we all come across them, you know. But I think the key thing is to recognise when you're doing it, stop, pause, change your thought. And if you keep changing that thought, eventually it becomes the thought. So, like, for example, whenever something comes up that's negative, the first thing I think about was, how do I solve it, right? What is it, right? Okay, I'll take accountability for it. I'll do it, right? So it can be taught. But the first thing is a bit like, I'm assuming alcoholism. The first sign is accepting that you do it. And then after that, it's how do you make a difference?
And I'm interested as well, like, because I think a lot of people, to do that, to move from that victim or the entitled mindset, and let's use entitlement as an example, because I think entitlement is a massive blind spot for people. It's, like, Janine, I've had so many people tell me in leadership programs we run, they'll say, oh, Shell, like, I have an ego problem, or Shell, I get defensive when people give me feedback. But I've never had someone come to me and say, oh, Shelley, like, I'm just really entitled. Like, I think it's a blind spot. It's something that it's not obvious to us unless we're super, super self-aware.
Yeah.
Have you had people help bring that to attention, or how have you, I suppose, built that self-awareness muscle? Because I think that's key if you're able to identify and accept, here's where I'm at and here's where I need to be.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever wallowed in very long. I mean, as I said, we've all been there. But I do believe that because it was so much on, I didn't have time to wallow in it. I just had to keep pushing through and finding solutions. And often there wasn't anyone to, you know, you go to the rescue. There was no one to rescue me. And so, which was great, because I had to rescue myself. And there was no one to blame because it was all on me. So in some respects, I was forced out of verb into saw very quickly anyway. The entitlement one is a really interesting one, where I find that when, say, people are going for a pay rise, I'm entitled to a 50% pay rise. Why? Oh, because I've been here for 12 months. Well, that's not a reason. How have you contributed to the business to be entitled to the 50% pay rise? So, yeah, I've come across that a lot, where people just see it about them, but not about the fact that if any relationship, there's a two-way. There's always give and get. So it is very interesting when people get caught up in that. You know, I deserve. I've been here 5 years. I deserve promotion. Not the fact that, you know, you haven't contributed. You've just done your job. You haven't actually added. But they deserve it. And it's people, I think, as soon as you get to a point where I deserve nothing, what do I do about actively pursuing something that I can actually deserve? Kind of, that's not.
I think the deserve word is huge, and I think it can be very much linked to that entitlement mindset, because I think there's a difference of, like, do you deserve something or have you earned it? Like, have you worked hard enough to show? And when you're going for a pay rise, and it was such a pet peeve of mine when I was in HR, because people would come to me and be like, you know what, I deserve a 40% pay rise or whatever it is, and be like, you're very me focused, not focused on the we, on the collective, like how you're adding value to the business. And I think when we get stuck in that mindset, it can be so hard to break out of. And I feel like that's why we need good coaches and mentors to help point this stuff out, because it's hard to see in ourselves. Like, it's easy to spot in someone else. Like, I can spot that person's entitled, but I'm not going to look at myself and be like, oh, I'm being really entitled in how I'm perceiving this.
Yeah. And it's not, there's a difference between being entitled and seeing value. So, for example, if someone turned around and wanted a pay rise, the first thing I would say to them is, how are you contributing above and beyond what you're doing now to the business, right? And so when you go in, you can go in and go, okay, would like to talk things that I've added to the business to add increase in value. I'd like to get to this point, X amount. What do I need to do in the business to actually achieve that goal or achieve that promotion? So actually, in fact, you're going, let's work together. I'd like to get to here. How do we work together for me to get to there? And then, but instead of just going, I have a mortgage, my husband's just bought a Lamborghini we've got to pay for. I need an extra $20,000 a year. Like, it's not the business's problem how you run your life. The amount of people who come to me and say, I need a pay rise because we've just got bought a new house. Like, that's not why I should give you a pay rise.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, show the value adding, because there's often business owners that I work with, they want to invest in their staff. Like, they care deeply about the people they lead, but it's all about how you communicate this stuff that influences how someone perceives it on the other end. And I think about the value you're adding. And I think it goes to that SOAR mentality. It's like, come with solutions, take ownership over your career, have the accountability to do above and beyond in your role. And those things set you up to do well in your career and in your leadership.
Yeah, no, completely.
You're running at the moment Business Academy, and you're taking so many entrepreneurs through this course of how do you succeed in business. I'd love to just understand, for you, what do you feel like have been some of the big learnings that new business owners need to learn?
Look, I think the key thing is you really need to make sure you have a really solid foundation to grow your business. Quite often entrepreneurs are actually terrible business people, by the way, right? So people go, I want to be an entrepreneur. You go, okay, because entrepreneurs do this. I have a product I'm so excited about. I'm going to focus on the colours and the pretty product. And then they go, oh, there's a bright line over there, right? And they go, oh, hang on, there's something a bit more exciting over here. Oh, I want to do another product. And I haven't really done that. That product will work. Like, they don't stick with things to get it right because they're so into the next bright, shiny toy. That's sort of a smart entrepreneur recognize that they're the creator, they're the person that's got that that creative mind to actually create the product and love the customer. But they've got to make sure that they surround themselves with the analyticals that can actually basically go behind them and put it all together and put systems and processes and keep that foundation really solid for them to grow their business. And, it's the amount of businesses that are, 5, 6 years old that are in food, that they've got a manufacturer making their food and they have no idea, they don't even know their own recipe. No idea, right? And so they can't even move away from that factory because they own their recipe, or they don't own their trademark, or because someone else set the trademark up, an employee, and suddenly they don't even own it. Like, so there is so much that you need to make sure that the business is really solid for you to then be able to, go off and follow those bright, shiny lights. Yes,
it's so true. I see that all the time with the new thing and the next thing. It's like, oh, so I'm going to go over here now. And it's the discipline to really hone in and focus on one thing and go, I'm going to absolutely nail it. I'm interested, even just thinking about your Boost journey and how you've kind of like grown as a leader, because you had such rapid growth in those early years where you went from one store and then all of a sudden the partnership with Westfield and all this stuff was happening. How did you manage that fast-paced growth personally? Because I imagine you had to grow as quick personally as the business was growing. How did you do that?
I don't know. You just do, right? You're not thinking, if you're on a fast train, you don't know how fast you're going, right? All I knew was that there was a problem. There was no self-reflection. It was simply, what do I need to do? What do I need to achieve? I need to feed the children. I need to get them to bed. I need to, grow the store. I need to hire some people. Like there was no time of going, where am I in my life cycle right now? How am I as a businesswoman, right? I was just going, I've got long hair now. I had hair that was past my bottom, curly, full of bright, like I never went to hairdressers. I just did, right? So, but I think that but one of the things that working for David Bowie taught me was that people are people, because I always thought that people were like, there were super people like David Bowie was a super person and that he didn't do things like me, because I'm a normal person. And I realised that people are just people, and that was a really good lesson for a young girl. So when I came into business, despite the fact that I was probably the least educated in every room, I never felt like I was less than nor more than. And people talk about the imposter syndrome, which I think is absolute bullshit, right? There's no such thing as imposter syndrome, right? So if you say, Janine, when you started, you had no business experience, but you were running a business, are you an imposter? No, I'm learning, right? And I think that there's, you're not expected to know everything all the time. Like even when I'm 60, 70, 80, 90, I'll still be learning, right? So if you sort of think there's something called this imposter syndrome, then everyone on the planet is an imposter because everyone is on a learning journey. And there is no one on the planet who is actually in that point where they've stopped evolving and stopped learning. You only do it when you die. That's the only time you stop. So, I think that people need to just go, and people quite often I see in businesses, they go, I don't know something. And I'll go, you're underestimating how much you know about your business. No one knows your business like you do. So yes, you might speak to a lawyer and accountant. He doesn't know your business. So don't just assume that because he is more educated or charges you $500 an hour, that he knows more than you. So I think that people need to sometimes back their own ability and a bit more, because the amount of times people go, oh, I've got this business, but I'm really not good at numbers. It's like, well, can you add? Yeah, well, then you're good at numbers. Like just get someone for 5 minutes to show you your P&L. It's not that hard. It's plus or minus. So we feel like we need them.
That is such a reframe for me, Janine, hearing you talk about imposter syndrome. There's no imposters. I'm learning.
Yeah, you're just on a journey. And you're just in different levels of your journey, different levels of thing. You're not an imposter. Unless you've literally got a hood over your head and you're going into someone's house, then there may be an imposter. But, you're not pretending. I'm not pretending I'm a businesswoman. I'm not pretending I'm a mother. I'm not pretending. I'm a mother. I'm a business person. If I own a business, then I do it. And I'm still on this journey of learning.
It's such a good reframe. I know heaps of people are going to take a lot away from that. I've got 2 more questions for you. When I think about the still learning, did you have a coach or a mentor through your career or at different points that really helped you on your learning journey?
Not like a structured mentor. I would find if I needed to know more about franchising, I would reach out to someone and go, hey, can I take you for a coffee? Leslie Gillespie from Baker's Delight was amazing with me. So they'd been in the business. I think Baker's Delight was like 15 years old when Boost started. I think it's about 30 now. She would meet up with me once a month, and she would just go, all right, these are some of the things that you need to think about. These are the things that are likely to happen. So she was amazing. So she wasn't necessarily a mentor. She was just someone I could buy a coffee with and mentor and just talk me through some of the challenge that she's been through before. An early investor, Jeff Harris, co-founder of Flight Centre, a good sounding board for a young girl who's going, wow, there's a lot happening, right? So that sort of calming voice of, that's okay. And sometimes all you need from these people is, it'll be fine. I've gone through this 10 times before. It'll be fine. You'll work through it. So sometimes you just need that, because every time the first happens for everything, it's like it blows your mind. The first time someone litigates or sues you for something that you think is unjust, right? You go, oh my God, that's so unfair. The first time people steal from you, the first time people lie to you, the first time suppliers let you down, all of the firsts are actually quite confronting. And they really do hit you hard. But then after a while, it beats you down, and you find that you go, okay, yeah, sure, another lawyer louder, fine, no worries. Who's saying that? Okay, no worries. Let's just go through the process. Like you kind of been there before. You have a calmness about it. You know that you sort of try and think about all the how to navigate it. It's just what you do.
It's amazing too that I like what you said about the calming voice. Sometimes when we're in that, where we might be rattled by a particular challenge, but you have that one person you can call and they're like, hey, it's actually going to be okay.
Like, you don't know. That's the whole thing.
And I think going to your point, like there's a lot we do know in our business or in our particular role, but there's also a lot that we won't know, but we're still learning. And that's okay. Like
we're always learning. There's stuff we always don't know. Like there'll never be a point in time that there's not something you can learn and pick up from someone. And that's also, we're in an era that we're not just picking up from our older, wiser people ahead of us. I've got, sons in great area. My daughter, I'm learning heaps from them with, particularly in this, they're being digital natives. I'm learning from, people who just get so narrow-minded that they're not prepared to listen to other people of any age or any background. More fool them.
Absolutely. My final question for you, Janine. You have led large teams. You've worked with so many leaders in different organisations. I'd love to know what your biggest learning was as a leader or your best advice that you received as a leader.
Not sure of the advice. I think be yourself. Be true to who you are. Don't try and emulate someone else you think is what a leader is. To be who you are. Have a very clear idea of what success looks like. Ensure you have the best possible team you can have and be ruthless with that. Like make sure that you only have the great team. And the most important skill you need as a leader is communication. You need to make sure you communicate really effectively and follow through with written word, because people love grey, right? Oh, is that what you meant? Okay. So as a communicator, and you need to be inspiring. You need to go, hey guys, we're on our way. Yes, there's a disaster happening here. We'll work through it. Like you need to be that person that people look to and go, which way are we going? And you need to definitively say this way, even if it could be at the end of a cliff. You need to be definitive. You might just turn just before the cliff gets there. But you need to be a really good communicator and be passionate about what you do. I mean, people want to follow good leaders. They don't want someone who's a wet fish that's constantly going, oh, it's not my fault, and oh, sorry. Like, yeah, no one wants that. People want leaders that go, guys, we've got this, and not taking credit for stuff that you don't do, and, just be a good person. But expect excellence.
Expect excellence. I love that. Expect excellence of the people that you lead, and also rise to the excellence that they expect from you.
Absolutely. And treat people how you'd like to be treated yourself.
Absolutely. And I think one of your strengths is communication. I have been following you for a long time, and I love how you communicate and cut through. And I know that a lot of people are going to want to jump on and find out more about Business Academy, because I would encourage you need to get your foundations right if you're starting a business, and this is the way to do it. We're going to put a link in the show notes to make sure you can check it out. Get on it fast. There's a lot of great resources that Janine puts out on Instagram. We'll have all the links in there. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your wild schedule to be with us today.
No, my pleasure, Shelley. My pleasure.